What's up, design family, and welcome back to another episode of Fittdesign TV. So glad to have you back on the channel. On today's episode, we have the resurgence of a series that we've done in the past where we've taken a client design that we've done and essentially compared the finished product to the tech pack that we created. I'll take you through step by step from the initial concept all the way to the final execution in terms of how we turned this idea from a concept into a physical reality that everyone can enjoy. On today's episode, we'll specifically be looking at how we designed the Alphalete Elements full zip athletic jacket. What's up, design family, and welcome to Fittdesign TV. So glad to have you here. On this channel, we discuss all things sports fashion, graphic design, manufacturing, and technology. We'll discuss key topics, answer pressing questions, and provide actionable steps on starting your own product line. If you're interested in any of the above topics, stick around. You're in for a good one. Every design phase starts off with a core fundamental understanding of the concept. The concept of this collection, and in terms of why we called it the Elements collection, was a sort of back to basics approach for Alphalete. As a brand, they've definitely gained in massive popularity over the last 2 years, especially within the female demographic. Very well known for a lot of their seamless apparel, but there was a subset of their core demographic, which was the menswear line or the performance-oriented line that was lacking. So this design concept was a back to basics approach where we definitely wanted to create superior performance items catered both to men and women, but specifically more of a menswear collection. And we wanted to create a simple aesthetic with performance-oriented design cues, design elements, functionality requirements, fabric requirements, and ultimately go in and create a base by which the brand could continue to grow. So this also represented a new opportunity for us to introduce Alphalete's new emblem logo, which was redesigned over the last 2 years. And this was going to be a core signifier or a core visual cue of the new Elements collection. So now that we have the concept out of the way, we started to look at what fabrics we had available to us. The fabrics available always dictate the direction of the project. Early on, we knew that we wanted to use a fabric that had a nice blend of performance and a little bit of a casual feel to it. So this essentially took out any pure nylon blends or any pure polyester blends. I think those fabrics are great in certain situations, but the lack of cotton or the lack of a peached effect ultimately creates something that's a bit too slick. I'll bring the garments. We ended up going with a blend of cotton, polyester, and spandex, specifically in a medium weight composition or a medium weight configuration of around 280 grams per square meter. And when it comes to the knit construction, we went for an interlock weft knit construction. These three things combined create a garment that performs very well in a gym setting with great sweat wicking capabilities and a lot of stretch and shape retention abilities, but without creating an overly slick and performance-driven aesthetic. I think by taking away that slickness and that shine that you naturally get with heavy polyester items or heavy nylon items, you create a garment that's a bit more versatile. And this fabric is an all-around great performer, both in and out of the gym. The specific blend of cotton, polyester, and spandex, well, each of these three key fibers is doing something here. Cotton in general is offering breathability to the garment, whereas polyester is offering durability, it's offering anti-piling capabilities, and ultimately it's offering great sweat wicking effects. And then lastly, spandex needs no introduction. It's a great shape retention fiber and at the same time provides a lot of stretch. So if you're going to take this garment into the gym, it's going to be able to stretch and move with you without losing its shape over time. At the same time, we looked at the weight. The weight here is very specific at 280 GSM. We're offering a medium weight garment that is suitable for both heavyweight tops, or let's just say hood tops and bottoms. And at the same time, it gives us the versatility to go up and down depending on the design requirements. If you look at the core Elements collection, there's a lot of different types of products in there. And actually, we were effectively able to use the same fabric across the entire collection, whether we were doing an oversized short for women or an athletically cut short for men. that same fabric was able to perform in both of these categories. And lastly, we had the interlock weft knit textile construction. When it comes to knits, there's a variety of different knits that you can use. We like to use interlock knits specifically because of the hand feel and the overall robustness of an interlock knit. It gives the garment a little bit of a sponge-like feel, which creates a structured drape that is so beautiful when worn on body, and at the same time gives you a little bit of an armor feel. It's not overly hard or overly, let's just say, cumbersome to wear, but at the same time, it's not incredibly flowy. Now that we had the fabric completely figured out, it was time to go into the core design requirements of the project. This is a full zip athletic jacket. It's a little bit different than some of the other pieces in the collection. Definitely, this is one of the more fitted garment types, and if you were to sort of relate it to a Nike item, it would be almost like a Nike Tech Fleece full zip jacket. It's definitely much more fitted than some of Alphalete's other items, and at the same time, it allows the wearer to have a close to the body feel, whether you're doing high performance training or you're sprinting or you're running. In general, the fit is an extremely athletically conducive type of fit. When it comes to the silhouette, we needed to make sure that we're hugging the chest and offering enough room for range of motion, definitely on the arms, just so that the wearer didn't feel too constricted. This is quite specific. We needed to make sure that the armhole wasn't too high, but at the same time wasn't too low. If it was too high, it was going to create uncanny or sort of unsightly creases at the chest line, and in general was just not going to be extremely comfortable to wear, especially if you're warming up or running. You're going to get a lot of chafing at the armpits, and if we were to lower it too much, you'd get excess fabric at the armpits, and at the same time you just wouldn't get the right look and feel. By getting the perpendicular armhole or the armhole at just the right place, we're able to hug the biceps, hug the arms, and ultimately start to taper in at the waist and create this beautiful draped silhouette that obviously allows you to show off all of the hard work that you've been putting in at the gym. This in general created the core silhouette, which I consider to be an athletically cut silhouette, as opposed to some of the other relaxed and oversized silhouettes that we have in the same collection. Also, the garment is actually cut quite close at the wrists and at the waist. It almost seals in the silhouette of the garment and keeps it close to the skin at all times without being overbearing. This does two things. Number one, it obviously allows you to retain your range of motion. We finished the wrist and the bottoms with a little bit of an elastic binding that allows it to stretch, but at the same time allows it to stick close to the skin. We also offered a light scallop at the bottom. What that does is it helps to lengthen the torso. When you lengthen the torso, you create more muscular and more aesthetic proportions to the wearer. This in general is an illusion, but it allows us to make the wearer feel a bit more confident and at the same time to create a bit more symmetry and overall proportionality in your physique from a vertical dimension. Next up, we needed to look at the functionality that we wanted to achieve from the garment. At its core, this is an athletic zip-up. Yes, it's fitted, but at the same time, it has intentions to be used in certain key scenarios. Whether you're warming up at the start of your gym session, or you're going for a morning run, or you're commuting, we needed this garment to be able to provide an athletic performance in all of these key categories. This led to the initial fit that we mentioned in the previous set of the stages, but then we needed to look at some other core items. If you look at the paneling structure, this is probably one of the more flamboyant designs in the collection, and specifically because of its position as an athletically fitted hoodie, we wanted to create this sort of Power Ranger look and feel to it without going over the top. We ended up framing the chest, framing the biceps, the arms, and ultimately creating this beautiful illusion or this beautiful taper down the waist to help make you look more slender and ultimately to help broaden your shoulders. We ended up using a raglan sleeve construction. There's a bunch of different types of sleeve types that you can use. We opted for the raglan sleeve here specifically because of the increased range of motion that it provides. By eliminating a shoulder seam like you see on my jacket, you end up with a bit more range of motion, or a lot more range of motion, because you simply don't have that seam that runs across the shoulder. At the same time, the raglan sleeve just gives a bit more of a performance appeal simply because it's associated with a lot of sports performance items. From a pocket functionality, we ended up adding inseam zipper pockets on the torso panels that we created. What an inseam zipper pocket allows you to do is It allows you to retain focus on the core paneling without having to have a zipper tape or a zipper trim or any sort of unsightly zippers that take away from the actual look and feel of the garment. They're super easy to open up and super easy to zip back in, and they just create a seamless and sort of sleek look to the garment. Also, you'll notice this is the only full zip jacket that we ended up using in the collection. This allows you to put the garment on and off extremely easily without having to take any other pieces of clothing off, and in general just creates a seamless wearing experience. At the top of the zipper, we ended up adding a zipper cover guard because it's so tightly fitted to the skin. Chances are, if you're zipping on and off the garment, you may end up chafing your neck. By adding that zipper cover guard, we're able to eliminate that and just create, again, more of a sleek and homogeneous look and feel to the garment. We also ended up going with a high neck hood. This is a conscious decision. Whether you're running in the morning or you're commuting, a high neck hood allows you to protect your neck, and it just adds another layer of warmth and just a overall better wearing experience to the garment. And lastly, we ended up adding a phone or a chest pocket to the actual garment. This serves two core purposes. Number one, it adds to that aggressive aesthetic that we're going for, and it also opened up an opportunity for us to brand the garment. When you're running or when you're working out of the gym, chances are there's a couple things that you're holding, whether it's your AirPods, your phone, keys. Just by adding that extra bit of functionality or storage space, you're able to get a lot more use out of the garment without having to resort to other pockets or other products that you may not necessarily want to be carrying with you. Next up, we had the branding hits that we wanted to include on the garment. I mentioned earlier on in the video that this was a resurgence of the men's performance line for Alphalete, and this was also the introduction of their brand new emblem logo after a lengthy redesign. It was important to include the emblem logo in a way that felt fresh, but at the same time that didn't feel overly intrusive on the garment. As we know, people don't like change, and by introducing the garment or by introducing the new logo subtly, we allow people to start to take in the new aesthetic without having it be completely overbearing. We ended up including this logo on the back on a frosted silicone PVC label, top stitched all around, and ultimately we created a bunch of unique custom designs using the emblem logo to introduce it in a fun and fresh way, and at the same time retain that performance aesthetic. We ended up using a PVC logo specifically, simply because of its look and feel, and at the same time because of its waterproof ability. Chances are, if you're using a garment like this, you're going to be putting it through its paces, you're going to be sweating in it, and you're going to be using it in the elements. Hence, the idea that we wanted to use waterproof trims that were highly durable and that could put up with a lot of wear and tear. Now it was time for us to evaluate the trims and the accessories. This honestly is one of the core places that I like to show a little bit of flair and flamboyancy. A lot of people appreciate the details. They use the details as an indicator of the overall brand's quality. Those who focus on the details are able or are most likely also focusing on the larger parts of the process. With the zippers, with the pullers, with a lot of the tags that we had on the garment, we wanted to continue to push that performance-driven aesthetic and at the same time continue to push the homogeneity of this Elements branding that we had for the collection. We had a lot of opportunities to play with, and obviously we started off with our 3M reflective drawstrings. This is a great option. It's extremely sporty and it adds core functionalities. If you're running at night and there's no lights, a simple shine of light is going to have you lighting up like a Christmas tree. We also branded the aglets, made sure that they were silicone coated, and added the Alphalete core word mark on the ends of the aglets. By using a silicone coated aglet, we again added a little bit more waterproofness and durability to the garment. We used a special type of dual rope zipper puller on the actual center zipper and on the actual pocket. And again, we used the 3M reflective lining to add a bit more of that core, the reflective functionality, and to sort of continue that overall reflective aesthetic. You'll also be able to see that on the chest pocket, we waterproofed the zipper tape with a heat transfer tape that we then ended up branding with the Alphalete core word mark. These were all subtle opportunities for us to kind of push the branding forward and also to push that performance-driven aesthetic on the inside of the garment. So these are faces that you most likely won't be able to see from the outside. We wanted to continue that detailed design approach. We added a branded twill neck tape that helps to prevent fraying on the neckline and overall just adds a little bit more bulk and durability to the garment. We then looked at using a custom heat transfer print with specific elements branding, again to push that elements collection aesthetic forward. If you look at a brand like Alphalete, they have tons and tons of SKUs on their website. But by creating a bit more of a special feel to the collection, we wanted customers to immerse themselves in this new collection and to give this collection a little bit more value than the remaining items, to let it stand out from the rest of the crowd. And then lastly, we ended up using a waterproof TPU silicone brand label on the bottom hip, specifically again to continue that frosted waterproof aesthetic. Overall, you can see how everything comes together and creates a homogeneous and sort of centered look and feel to the collection. And last but definitely not least, we had to create the color palette selection. There's two key ways that we approached creating the color palette selection. Number one is we understood what type of fabric we were working with. We worked with a fabric that had great color fastness and great color representation. That way, when we were selecting either from Pantone or from the color codebook, we were able to maintain color accuracy and make sure that everything looked and felt exactly as we had in our minds. Then we ended up selecting colors based on two core palettes. Within the same palette, we ended up going for a bit more of a neutral palette, selecting a nice neutral black and a nice neutral gray with a little bit of purple in it. And at the same time, we created a bit more of a vibrant and performance-driven palette for those who dared to go a little bit more on the wild side, using a light blue and a flame orange. These colors combined offered a little bit of something for everyone. For those who wanted something that was a bit more subtle and subdued, you had the black and the charcoal option. And then for those who wanted something a bit more performance-driven and a little bit more flashy, you had the light blue and the flame orange option. Well guys, that is it. That is a wrap on this episode. We've effectively taken you through the design and creative process of the Alphalete Elements full zip athletic jacket. To recap quickly, we looked at how we approached the concept, how we selected the right kind of fabric to satisfy the concept's requirements, how we approached silhouette, fit, and overall length, how we addressed the functionality requirements of the garment, how we placed branding elements to create a cohesive look and feel for the brand, and how we sort of evaluated that or established that look and feel further by putting to use trims and hardware accessories to our advantage. And then lastly, rounding everything up and creating a beautiful collection, we created our color palette, which was meant to satisfy two core design requirements. One was to create a more subtle and subdued color palette for those who are a bit more, just say, shy in their color tastes, and ultimately a bit more of a vibrant palette to reflect the energy and the performance-driven aesthetic of the collection. Guys, if you enjoyed this episode, please consider smashing a massive thumbs up. It really does help us out. Also, if you want to hop on a one-on-one consultation call with me and you have some design questions, or you're looking to set up your own brand, or you already have your own brand and you're facing some issues, definitely check the link in the description and you can book a one-on-one call with me. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Fittdesign TV. Until next week's episode, stay awesome.